Pretty wild. Okay. I noticed some of you are asking questions in the Rumble chat. Listen, you're asking about Pop Talk. You're asking about Q. You're asking about, this and that. You're going to have to go back, and when this is all over, you're going to have to go back and watch the replay. Okay? I can't continue answering these questions over and over throughout the whole show. Simply go back, watch the replay. I answered all of that at the beginning. Okay? So, all right, we're going to change gears. And some of you are very happy for that, I'm sure. And we're going to go back to JFK Jr. and the global currency conspiracy of how they are robbing people blind. Okay? I'm telling you what, this JFK thing I'm going to show you is going to knock your socks off. Okay? But we'll start right here with this. So here we go. Here it is.
So what happened with the Roman Empire? Well, Julius Caesar decided that he wanted to go back onto the gold standard. Julius Caesar decided that he wanted to get rid of the usury or the concept of debt because he realized that there was individuals, oligarchs, that were monetizing off of the fractionalization of the currency. But Luke, how was it that these individuals fractionalized the currency back in the day? Well, they would dilute the purity of the coin. Now, back in the day, you would basically have to go and mine for gold or take over a village or take over a kingdom in order to bring in new currency in order to grow. Today, expansion or growth is merely just the printing of fake money. But that's basically stealing from your own people because you're devaluing the purchasing power that you have. Why? Because there's more circulating supply. Therefore, scarcity becomes less abounding. Now, back to Julius Caesar. He wanted to reintroduce the gold standard because he saw the debasing of the currency, aka the fading of his empire. But the oligarchs didn't like it. After he passed the law, within 6 months, he was murdered. 23 stabs. A couple years later, the debasing of the currency was reintroduced. Now, this happened again.
Now, I want to repeat. I want to read back. I can't even talk. I'm going to go back about 10 seconds here. I want you to listen to this comment again. What happened to Julius Caesar?
Didn't like it. After he passed the law, within 6 months, he was murdered. 23 stabs. A couple years later, the debasing of the currency was reintroduced. Now, this happened again many years later in a different land with an individual known as Abraham Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln was an interesting individual because he introduced the thesis of freedom for everybody. Now, he also understood that in order to win, he would need to fight for people that were opposing that view. Now, obviously, if you go deep down the rabbit hole, you understand that that war was funded, right? Somebody has to pay the soldiers. The soldiers have to get paid. But if you study history, a very famous and well-off banking dynasty approached Abraham Lincoln and offered to finance his side of the war, his side of the Civil War, for a massive interest rate of over 10%. Abraham Lincoln said, fuck that. He went to issue what he called the greenback dollars. And the greenback dollars was currency that he issued so that he could pay the army. He'd used the governmental power to do what? To get rid of the central banking system that was basically in control of the entire game. Within 6 months, he was murdered. This happened again in history, many years later. As the United States approached the war on communism across the world, from Vietnam to the Koreas, to the South Americas, Cuba, USSR, and so forth, there was an individual known as Kennedy. You've probably heard of this guy. Now, Kennedy was a very interesting individual because he came in as a Democrat, but at some point, he shifted his perspective into understanding that there was a big issue with the currency being debased. So he issued, through the Treasury, $2 billion of a new currency, a new US dollar that was backed by silver, the silver-backed dollar. Within 6 months, he was murdered. And a few months later, a silver coin with his face on it was minted to commemorate him. There was another individual in history, a little bit more on the ruthless side, in the northern region of Africa. His name was Gaddafi. Now, you've heard Hillary Clinton brag about, we came, we saw, he died. But the reason was because when it's all said and done, Gaddafi wanted to introduce the Pan-African currency backed by gold. Within a few years, he was dead.
That is exactly right. Gaddafi wanted to introduce the Pan-African system based on gold. And that's why they killed him, Hillary Clinton and all the rest of the cabal. Okay? That's why he had to go. And again, folks, I'm telling you, gold and silver are at a point where my wife and I were talking about it on the way to the games this weekend. It's at a point to where they're saying if it breaks through this ceiling right here, if it gets through that, it's going to just go through the roof. And it's getting close. Both of them are. Okay, gold's about, I think the ceiling is like, they're calling it like $2,200 an ounce. And I think the silver is like $26, I think. But again, I am not saying put all your eggs into one basket. I'm telling you, you need to make sure you don't put all your eggs into the cash basket, because the dollar is collapsing. It was made to collapse. It's lost value every year for the last 70-something years. Okay. And that's the way it's going to be. Okay. And so don't hang on to all of that. I had a very wise person tell me recently, very well off, very, very wealthy person, said, Brad, I put as much as I can. She said, I'm 40% of my total net worth I've got in precious metals, 40% in real estate, and 20% in cash. Now, again, can you and I do that? Yeah, maybe not. But again, I'm not going to gripe about it. I'm going to do what I can and buy as little or as much as I can. Okay. And so again, you can do that wherever you want to. But again, the company I work with is Goldco, and you can diversify your 401 or IRAs with precious metals. Go to bradlightsgold.com and they can hook you up. Okay, that's bradlightsgold.com. They can hook you up, and I trust them. I've got precious metal through them, and again, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't personally believe in. Okay, and because it's coming, I promise you, and we just don't know when, but it's getting close. Okay, so all right, so let's end tonight. Now I've got quite a bit. We're not done yet. Okay. But I've got 4 more things I want to share with you right here. Okay, but we're coming down the home stretch here, and this is going to be all this is about JFK. Okay, JFK, and so I want to share a little clip. This was Judge Andrew Napolitano talking with someone about his conversation with Donald Trump. And this was concerning Trump had promised to release the JFK files, to declassify all of it. Remember that? That's what this is pertaining to. Here we go.
In my last conversation with President Trump in the White House, he called me a lot. And this is after January 6th, so it's 2 weeks before, or a week before he's leaving office. He wanted to run past me the names of people he was going to pardon and sentences he was going to commute. He wanted my opinion on them. Some of them I knew. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Not too well," and he went off into a tangent about what he thought happened with the election. I said, "You made a promise to the public many times and to me privately that you haven't kept." What? I'll take care of it right now. I said, "You promised you would release the records of the JFK assassination. He said to me, Judge, if they showed you what they showed me, you wouldn't have released it either. And I said, who's they and what did they show you? And then he said, Judge, someday when we're on the phone, and then he raised his voice, and there aren't 15 people listening to the phone call, back to a normal voice, I'll tell you.
Oh my God.
I mean, this makes it sound even worse. Who are they? Probably somebody in the intelligence community. What did they show him? JFK's brains blown out?
This is it. You know, it was said by one person that after the Kennedy assassination, there has been no president. They have only been factotums of the system since then.
Yeah.
It may well be the most decisive event in modern American history.
You think? If you'd have seen what I've seen, you wouldn't show it to anybody either. Whew. Okay, now, what I'm about to show you, again, some of you may say, oh, I've seen that before. I never have until the other night. And this is freaky. This goes back to the movies. Here we go. I love how this thing doesn't put anything in the order where you put it. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, let me do it this way.